Right now at 5:30, we're bringing you your top takeaways from court underway in Bowling Green today. The Crystal Rogers trial, the Commonwealth's 21st witness, Amber Bowman. She's the ex-girlfriend of Nick Houck, Nick being the brother of Brooks Houck, who is the chief murder suspect in this case. Testimony from the ex-girlfriend at the time of Rogers' disappearance on July 3rd. She said they were moving. The two were moving, but Nick Houck was not available to help. She told the jury she called him several times, but his phone was off, something she says was highly unusual. She said Nick also did not come home that night.
Also on the stand today, a former employee of Houck who overheard the Lawsons. He claims Joseph Lawson said he would bury Crystal with a skid steer and no one would find her. So again, this is the second witness to bring up the skid steer, and yet another witness disputed Houck's claims that he was with Crystal until midnight. Owen McKinney took the stand saying he saw Crystal's car on the side of the Bluegrass Parkway the evening of July 3rd. That date, the 3rd of July, has been a major point in this trial.
And we're now joined by our WHS 11 News legal analyst, who is going to be joining us every night again at 5:30. You have some late-breaking testimony that came in from the courtroom, as being reported by Shay McAllister on our blog at WHAS11.com. This involves Brooks Houck's grandmother named Anna Whiteside.
Right. So there were multiple hunters on the night of July the 3rd that saw, or the evening, sometime around that time, a white Buick parked in the back of the Houck farm. Well, that white Buick, it was learned later, was owned by Anna Whiteside, which was Brooks Houck's grandmother. It was later sold, and their surveillance video showing Nick Houck and Anna Whiteside selling the vehicle. They searched of the car later and found hairs that were similar to Crystal Rogers found in the trunk of that vehicle. So I'm not sure about the DNA yet. We're just kind of getting this information as it comes in.
Does similar cut it with the jury, though?
Why would there be hair in the back of a trunk, though? I mean, I think that's very odd. That strikes me as odd right away, and certainly this trial is still going on right now. I think Jamie Brooks, the detective, still on the stand, but that, it could be a big deal. I think the family's pretty upset, is my understanding. Hearing that news, it's something we haven't heard about before, so it's a big deal.
We've heard about Anna Whiteside's, but that's the first detail.
Yeah. And so with that helps a lot, I guess, for the prosecution, because up until now, we're hearing a lot of hearsay testimony.
We are, and we heard a lot about, I think we heard from Mr. Girdley today.
Charlie Girdley.
Things that Joey Lawson had told him. But to be honest with you, the defense did a great job of just ripping him apart. He told 5 or 6 different stories. He's said he was high and drunk in some of them. I mean, so, a lot of the stuff, unfortunately, he really had no credibility at all in the stand today.
Let's go over what he said, though, because it was disturbing, and it was also, he was talking about something all of Bardstown has talked about 10 years. And he said Joseph Lawson told him that after Crystal's death, he was going to pull her teeth and feed her to the hogs, is what he said in the courtroom today. Now, Girdley, you talk about his credibility. I mean, he was actually on the run for a year before they could even get a hold of him and talk to him about it. But putting that out there in the jury's mind, you thought earlier today that was significant.
If they believe it. I mean, certainly it's upsetting, disturbing, and sickening when you hear that. I mean, the heart goes out to Crystal's family having to listen to that. But, the defense did a good job of saying, look, you told this story, then this story, then this story, then this story, and now today you're trying to be a hero and come up with a new story. And so, if the jury believes him, he could be the most important witness in this case. That being said, the defense did such a good job. Both Robert Boyd crossed him extensively and Brooks Houck's lawyers crossed him extensively. And, by the end of it, he didn't appear to have much credibility, unfortunately.
What about Amber Bowman testifying that, her boyfriend, Nick Houck, was not helping her move when they were moving and she couldn't get a hold of him? Again, that puts him at the farm for the jury, but does that say that he's involved in something, I mean, how far does that take the jury, would you say?
It's not a smoking gun, as you're pointing at there, Connie. But again, we're talking about a circumstantial case, and building a circumstantial case, it's one peg at a time, building that puzzle. And, it's odd. He goes off his I don't know if his girlfriend at the time, Nick Houck, 2015, says July 3rd, July 4th, I think she called him 15 times, no response. He said, oh, I was working on our new house. Well, she said, I went over to the new house, nothing had been done. So it's just, again, very odd.
Also matching up the cell phone records that we had come out late last week that said you couldn't reach Nick Houck for several days.
At all. For, I think, the whole July 3rd, July 4th, around that time, for a whole 24, 48-hour period.
Was he still a police officer at that time?
I believe he was.
Yeah, he was still on the Bardstown Force, and it's still so interesting that we're hearing Rosemary, Nick, and everybody else here in this case, but I mean, how does this is going to apply to getting a murder conviction on Brooks Houck?
Again, building that circumstantial case, and I'll tell you, Doug and Connie, there's one more thing I think that was important today. They talked about Brooks Houck. There were a dozen calls and texts to him, or 13 actually calls and texts, several from Crystal's family, including her daughter. He answered 0, but the one that got through was his mother, Rosemary Houck, which he did answer. Again, not a smoking gun, but it's very, very strange.
All right, thank you very much. Nick will be along with me a little later on the WHS 11 Plus app. That's at 9 p.m. tonight. We'll be recapping a full day there in Bowling Green.